Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into the absolute roller coaster that is the corporate and sporting journey of an iconic Italian football club, Sampdoria. We're going to chart a course through their unbelievable footballing highs, straight into their terrifying financial cliffs, and really examine how a club can swing so violently between extremes.
I mean, it's a completely jarring contrast. Picture this, it's 1992, and Sampdoria is walking out at Wembley Stadium to play Barcelona for Europe's ultimate prize. Now, fast forward to 2023, they're relegated from Serie A and literally days away from going bankrupt and dropping into amateur football. How on earth does a club fall from the absolute pinnacle of European football to, well, the very edge of non-existence? Let's find out. Section 1. The 1992 European Pinnacle.
To really get the tragedy of this fall, we first have to rewind to their absolute peak in the early 90s, their golden era. Armed with legendary stars like Gianluca Vialli and Roberto Mancini, they completely stunned the Italian football establishment. They captured the 1991 Scudetto, totally dethroning those traditional northern powerhouses. And they definitely didn't stop there. The very next year, they marched straight to the 1992 European Cup final. This squad had the sheer talent and tactical discipline to go toe-to-toe with absolutely anyone in the world.
Section 2. Tactical Clash at Wembley.
So, to truly grasp just how formidable they were back then, we need to break down that famous tactical chess match at Wembley against Johan Cruyff's Barcelona. It was this fascinating clash of philosophies. Sampdoria lined up in a 3-5-2, relying on a super strict, incredibly disciplined man-to-man marking style, right? They had Stretchko Kadnek anchoring the whole thing as a controlling midfielder. But Barcelona? They played this wildly unusual 3-1-2-1-3 formation under Cruyff, built entirely on fluid spacing and just constant, unpredictable movement.
And that brings us to a brilliant tactical concept Barcelona used to counter the Italians: structural asymmetry. Basically, because Sampdoria's defenders were so intensely focused on following their specific man everywhere, Barcelona deliberately used non-standard positional movements to drag those defenders completely out of position. But constantly opening and shifting into new spaces, Barca created this unpredictable fluid shape that was an absolute nightmare for a man-marking defense to handle.
The absolute key to this asymmetry was Michael Laudrup operating as a false nine. So instead of staying up top like a normal striker, the Danish genius kept dropping deep into the midfield, specifically into the left half space. And man, this caused total tactical confusion for Sampdoria. If a defender aggressively followed him, boom, a massive gap opens up right in the heart of the defense. But if they didn't follow him, Laudrup had all the time in the world to turn, face the goal, and orchestrate an attack.
And this perfectly highlights the final piece of Cruyff's puzzle. Because Sampdoria was so passively focused on man-marking the forwards and attacking midfielders, they critically failed to press Barcelona's deep-lying playmakers. We're talking about a 21-year-old Pep Guardiola and sweeper Ronald Koeman. Koeman used that total freedom to launch incredibly accurate long-range passes, while Guardiola calmly pulled the strings with short ones. They essentially bypassed the Italian defense altogether, eventually handing Sampdoria a heartbreaking 1-0 defeat in extra time.
Section 3. Financial Ruin and Arrests.
Okay, so they lost that final, but tactically they were elite. Now let's pivot from the pitch to the boardroom. Because after this incredible peak, stars like Vialli and Mancini departed, and a massive failure to reinvest in the squad triggered a slow, devastating downward spiral. Look at this timeline. Stretching from that glorious 91 Scudetto all the way to Massimo Ferrero's takeover in 2014, the tension just snaps. By 2021, the club president is actually arrested, and by 2023, the club is fully relegated. Their brilliant 90s tactical legacy got completely swallowed up by unprecedented corporate chaos.
And the chaos really accelerated with this number: 15 million euros. In June 2014, Italian businessman Massimo Ferrero bought the club for roughly that amount. Now, 15 million might sound like an absolute steal for a historic, beloved Serie A club, right? But here's the catch. That sum critically included all of the club's massive existing debt. Ferrero aggressively took on this huge financial burden, but as we're about to see, the stability didn't last long at all.
The Ferrero era was a total roller coaster. Over his 7.5 years at the helm, there were a few brief sporting highs, like qualifying for the Europa League back in 2015. But in December 2021, the wheels completely came off. Ferrero was arrested in Milan and sent to San Vittore jail. He was actively investigated for alleged corporate crimes and bankruptcy tied to 4 of his previous business ventures. Suddenly, the president of a major Serie A club is sitting behind bars. When he stepped down,
Ferrero gave this quote to the press. "I did my best and I'm still doing my best, but if someone is capable of giving Sampdoria more light than I am, I'm ready to listen and to pass the baton." It sounds kind of poetic, sure, but it stood in stark contrast to the grim reality on the ground. The club was absolutely plummeting down the Serie A table, and financial mismanagement was threatening to wipe them off the map forever.
Section 4. A last-minute rescue.
Which brings us to the frantic, ticking clock of 2023. A relegated Sampdoria was staring directly over a financial cliff, desperate for a miracle. And here's the bitter irony. Remember how Ferrero bought the club for €15 million? Well, by May 2023, the club was suddenly short exactly €13 million. They needed this cash immediately just to pay outstanding wages. If they couldn't find it, they wouldn't just drop to Serie B. They'd be declared bankrupt, lose their professional status, and be forced to restart from scratch in Serie D, the amateur leagues.
And to make it even more agonizing for the supporters, they had been kept on edge for months. Why? Because a totally viable rescue bid had actually been placed by Alessandro Barnaba and Merlin Partners way back in November, but Ferrero flatly rejected it. So the clock just kept ticking, the debts kept piling up, and the threat of total institutional collapse felt closer every single day. But then, literally at the 11th hour, a viable rescue plan came together in 3 crucial steps. In late May, Leeds United owner Andre Radrizzani and Matteo Manfredi put forward a formal proposal. Next, they successfully signed a preliminary agreement for a massive capital increase to pump life-saving funds into the club. And finally, and this was the big one, they held rigorous meetings to secure a debt restructuring agreement with the local banks.
This new consortium was led by Gestio Capital and Acer Holding. Their proposal gave solid guarantees for the club's future and got the green light from the board of directors, mostly because it was the best option for protecting the creditors. It even included advanced talks with QSI, the owners of Paris Saint-Germain, for a potential minority investment. They found the money, they covered the wages, and they literally pulled the club back from the absolute abyss.
So, Sampdoria survived. Those iconic blue ring shirts are going to keep taking the pitch and fight another day. But as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this final chilling question. How many other historic clubs out there are just one bad owner away from vanishing entirely? This explainer really highlights just how incredibly fragile success in European football actually is. You could be playing Barcelona in a European Cup final one decade and fighting for your literal existence the next. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and remember to keep questioning what's really going on behind the scenes of the clubs you love.